Hi everyone, and welcome to the first video in the coverage I'm going to do of the prestigious Corus tournament this year, which started yesterday. It's in its 72nd year now, and one of the strongest annual tournaments in the chess world. It's held each January in a place called Wyk aan Zee in northern Holland. I'm going to cover Group A, which consists of GMs Karakin, Dominguez, Kramnik, Lecco, Shirov, Caruana, who's a young and upcoming Italian star, Ivanchuk, Deviakov, Carlsen, Smeets, Nakamura, Van Wely, Short, and world champion Vishy Anand. You can watch the games live on chessbomb.com. They start at 12:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. All eyes are on Magnus Carlsen, who's now world number 1 with a FIDE rating of 2810. And being coached by Garry Kasparov. Kramnik's also on good form, and Vishy is always a pleasure to watch, although he'll be saving the preparation he's doing for his title defense against Topalov in a few months' time. Of the 7 games in round 1, 5 were draws. Alexei Shirov, the tactical wizard, beat the modern-day Petrosian Peter Lecco, and Loek van Wely, who's playing on home ground, defeated the old-school English grandmaster, once child prodigy and world title contender Nigel Short, which I think was the better of the 2 wins, so it's the one I chose to focus on for this video. Van Wely had the white pieces anyway and opened with d4, to which Short replied knight f6, ostensibly going into one of the Indian defences. Van Wely continued with c4, and now came e6, which is the move order for a Nimzo-Indian defense if white now plays knight c3. However, Van Wely opted to sidestep that and played instead knight f3, which gave Short a choice of continuations. One of the most popular is the Queen's Indian, with b6 and bishop b7 in order to take further control of e4, and the Bogo Indian with bishop b4 check is also playable and seen at all levels. However, Short elected to transpose to a Queen's Gambit declined, with d5, leading to an opening that all GMs know inside out. Play continued with the bookline, knight c3 and knight bd7, which retains flexibility with regards to the c-pawn as opposed to playing knight c6 instead. And he could have followed up with c6 next in order to bolster this pawn here at d5 and gain the solid Slav formation for his pawns, but here Van Wely went into the exchange variation with c takes d5 and Short recaptured with his pawn, resulting in an often seen pawn structure which will dictate the middle game play. White has a pawn majority in the center with 2-1, which is a good thing per se and allows for space gaining and dynamics later. Black, on the other hand, has a pawn majority on the queen's side, which can result in initiative and the creation of a passed pawn. Also, this pawn structure gives White the opportunity to either advance his pawns in the center by means of f3 and e4 after this knight here is moved, or to play for a minority attack on the queen's side with ideas like rook b1 and then b4 and b5, etc. being fairly common. And black will often play c6 at some point, and this minority attack will pressurize the black pawn structure, in particular the square c6, and will generally result in a weak backward pawn for black on the semi-open c-file. However, on the flip side, the exchange at d5 has released the light-squared bishop here, which was hemmed in by the pawn on e6, and also opened the e-file, which gives black the use of e4 as a springboard for central and kingside play. And chances are balanced, but black is usually more or less forced to use his superior activity to launch a piece attack on white's king, as the long-term chances in the pawn structure favor white, as this game is a great example of a successful minority attack. Out of all of those strategies, the one that works in this game is a successful minority attack. And play continued with bishop g5, and now came some routine developing moves for this opening, with c6, e3, bishop e7, queen c2, black castling, bishop d3, and rook e8. And here Van Wely played h3, presumably so he could tuck his bishop away on h2 if Short had tried h6, g5, and knight h5 to win the bishop pair. So next came knight f8, unleashing the light square bishop and rerouting this knight to the king side. Now bishop f4 and a5, which is really a waiting move. There's nothing too constructive for black to do just yet. So Van Wely castles, and then came knight g6 and bishop h2, preserving the bishop pair. And now bishop d6, challenging white's dark squared bishop, although this move gives white a small edge, because after bishop takes d6 and queen takes d6, white has a good bishop against a bad bishop, given the color of the squares that most of the pawns are on. These pawns here are all on light squares. It restricts the mobility of the bishop here. And white also has some pressure on h7, so he has a small edge in the position. And this move, queen takes d6, is the last book move of the game, because here Van Wely played rook f e1, which takes the game into new territory, at least as far as Fritz is concerned. Almost the entire game was very accurate from both players, and Fritz had no stronger alternatives to any of the moves that were played right up until move 34. Short continued here with bishop e6, connecting his rooks and solidifying his position, and Van Wely now got the minority attack underway with a3. He's got 2 pawns against 3 here on the queen side, that's why it's known as a minority attack. And Short decided on building up latent pressure down the e-file with rook e7, and after rook a b1 he doubled up with rook a e8, and now Van Wely got the minority attack proper underway with b4. And after a takes b4, a takes b4, and now came bishop d7, which unmasks this pressure down the e-file, and black is planning on using e4 for his pieces here. And one way for white to stop that is by playing f3, but in order to do that he has to first move this knight, and due to the e-file pressure that's now unadvisable, because black would have tricks like knight f4 followed up with a sack on h3 for an attack. And after knight f4 there's no e takes f4, of course, if this knight has moved, because of rook takes e1 and so on. So Van Wely saw through this, of course, then continued his minority attack instead with b5. And it's better for Short to let Van Wely capture on c6 rather than capturing on b5 himself, because the latter option would create 2 isolated pawns which are easy to attack. So here Short played knight e4, which gets his knight to a strong central square. And another merit of having this pressure down the e-file is that there's no knight takes e4 because of d takes e4, and white is losing a piece. And bishop takes e4 is also undesirable and loses white the overall edge he has in the position, which is now at about half a pawn. Instead of this, Van Wely captured on c6. And after b takes c6, white's advantage has increased in size by about half, so it's about 0.75 now. And the creation of the weak pawn at c6 is mostly the reason for this. And as I said earlier, the fact that it's on an open file, or sorry, a semi-open file, makes it much easier for white to attack, and Short isn't getting the necessary counterplay to keep overall equality in the game. In particular, his doubling of rooks on the e-file is now questionable, as Van Wely is able to dominate and eventually penetrate on the queen side. He starts by immediately pressurizing the c6 pawn with rook b6, compelling Short to exchange off his best piece with knight takes c3, which Fritz agrees is the best move. It releases the tension of the position and also avoids any tactical ideas that existed, like a later knight takes d5 for white in some lines, exploiting the pin on this pawn here at c6. So queen takes c3, and now queen f6, which is a nice attacking square for the black queen, although White still has a decent overall edge in the position. Okay, that's the end of part 1.